Century eggs, the extraordinary science of an ancient delicacy. How chemistry, rather than decay, transforms an ordinary egg into one of China's most misunderstood culinary treasures. Tuesday, 4th of August, 2026. The century egg, known in Chinese as pidan, is one of the world's most fascinating examples of traditional food preservation. Despite its name, it is neither 100 years old nor rotten. Instead, it is a duck, chicken, or quail egg that has been preserved for 3 to 5 months in a highly alkaline coating, traditionally made from clay, wood ash, salt, quicklime, calcium oxide, and rice straw or rice husks. Quicklime reacts with moisture to form calcium hydroxide, creating a strongly alkaline environment that raises the egg's pH. This prevents spoilage while slowly denaturing the egg's proteins. Unlike boiling, which uses heat, alkaline curing transforms the egg through chemistry. The egg white becomes a translucent amber-black jelly, while the yolk develops a creamy greenish-grey texture with a rich umami flavor and characteristic sulphurous aroma. The English name, century egg, is a colorful misnomer coined by early Western observers. The Chinese name simply means preserved egg. Likewise, the common belief that century eggs are fermented or rotten is incorrect. Their transformation results primarily from controlled alkaline reactions rather than microbial decomposition. Historically, some commercial producers used small amounts of lead oxide to improve texture, but modern food regulations have eliminated this practice. Reputable manufacturers now employ lead-free methods and produce century eggs under stringent food safety standards. Nutritionally, century eggs are broadly comparable to fresh eggs, providing approximately 80 kilocalories, 8 grams of protein, and 5 grams of fat per egg, together with useful amounts of calcium, iron, and potassium. However, they also contain considerably more sodium because of the curing process, and should therefore be enjoyed in moderation. Century eggs are widely used in Chinese cuisine, particularly with pickled ginger, congee, chilled tofu, salads, and appetizers. Their creamy texture and savory depth make them a prized delicacy. Far from being an oddity, the century egg is a remarkable testament to the sophistication of traditional Chinese food science, demonstrating how empirical knowledge transformed an ordinary egg into one of the world's most distinctive culinary treasures. A food surrounded by mystery. Few foods provoke as much curiosity, fascination, and apprehension as the century egg. To the uninitiated, its appearance can be startling. The glossy, amber-black egg white resembles translucent jelly, while the yolk is creamy and dark green, sometimes approaching gray or black. Combined with its distinctive sulphurous aroma, the century egg has earned a reputation as one of the world's strangest foods. Its English name does little to dispel the misconceptions. Many people assume that a century egg has been buried underground for 100 years, while others believe it has simply been left to rot. Neither assumption is true. A century egg is neither ancient nor spoiled. It is a carefully preserved food whose remarkable transformation is the result of controlled alkaline chemistry rather than microbial decomposition. Known in Mandarin as pidan, and sometimes referred to as a preserved egg, thousand-year egg, or millennium egg, this traditional Chinese delicacy has been enjoyed for centuries. It is prized not because it resembles a fresh egg, but precisely because it becomes something entirely different. The preservation process fundamentally alters its texture, flavor, and appearance, producing a food that is rich in umami and appreciated throughout China and much of East and Southeast Asia. Far from being an example of food gone bad, the century egg is a testament to the ingenuity of traditional food preservation long before modern chemistry could explain the transformations taking place. An accidental discovery? Like many traditional foods, the precise origins of the century egg are shrouded in legend. One popular story traces its discovery to the Ming Dynasty more than 600 years ago. According to the tale, a householder in Hunan province found duck eggs that had accidentally been left in a shallow pit containing slaked lime used during house construction. Curious rather than alarmed, he tasted the altered eggs and found them surprisingly delicious. Others soon began refining the process until it became an established culinary tradition. Whether the story is historically accurate remains uncertain, but it reflects an important truth. many of humanity's greatest foods emerged through careful observation, experimentation, and gradual refinement, rather than scientific understanding. Long before the fields of biochemistry and food science existed, Chinese artisans had mastered techniques that manipulated complex chemical reactions with remarkable precision. Today, century eggs remain a staple of Chinese cuisine and are widely consumed in Taiwan, Hong Kong, Malaysia, Singapore, Vietnam, and other parts of Asia. They are equally at home in humble bowls of rice porridge and on the banquet tables of fine restaurants. Shakir, the art of making a century egg. Although modern commercial manufacturers often use controlled alkaline solutions to ensure consistency and food safety, the traditional method remains a fascinating example of empirical food technology. Fresh duck eggs are the preferred choice because their larger yolks and richer flavor respond particularly well to preservation. However, chicken and quail eggs may also be used. Each egg is coated with a thick alkaline paste made from carefully selected natural ingredients. While recipes vary slightly between regions and producers, the principal components traditionally include clay, wood ash, salt, quicklime, and rice straw or rice husks. Among these ingredients, quicklime performs one of the most important chemical functions. Quicklime is the common name for calcium oxide, CaO, a white, highly alkaline compound produced by heating limestone, or calcium carbonate, to temperatures approaching 900 degrees Celsius. During this process, carbon dioxide is driven off, leaving behind calcium oxide. When quicklime comes into contact with water, it reacts vigorously to produce calcium hydroxide, also known as slaked lime, CaO plus H2O, CaOH2. Calcium hydroxide is strongly alkaline, creating the high pH environment that drives the remarkable transformation inside the egg. Once coated, the eggs are traditionally rolled in rice husks or rice straw to prevent them sticking together before being stored in cool conditions for several months. Depending on the producer and the desired characteristics, the curing period typically ranges from 3 to 5 months, although some recipes may require longer maturation. Throughout this time, nothing is allowed to spoil. Instead, an intricate series of chemical reactions gradually reshapes the egg's internal structure. Chemistry rather than decay. One of the greatest misconceptions surrounding century eggs is that they are produced through fermentation or decomposition. In reality, neither process is responsible for their distinctive appearance. Instead, preservation occurs because the strongly alkaline environment raises the egg's pH from approximately neutral to as high as pH 12. Under these conditions, many bacteria responsible for food spoilage cannot survive, allowing the egg to undergo profound chemical changes without becoming rotten. Proteins, which normally exist as tightly folded three-dimensional structures, are particularly sensitive to changes in acidity or alkalinity. Exposure to intense alkalinity causes these proteins to unfold in a process known as denaturation. Unlike cooking with heat, which also denatures proteins, alkaline denaturation occurs slowly over many weeks. As the proteins unravel, they begin forming new molecular bonds with one another, creating an entirely different structure. The liquid egg white gradually becomes a firm yet delicate translucent gel, while the yolk develops a creamy consistency with an intensely savory flavor. The transformation is so complete that the finished product scarcely resembles the fresh egg from which it originated. Yet despite its unfamiliar appearance, it remains perfectly edible and, when properly prepared, entirely safe. In the next part of this feature, we shall examine the fascinating molecular chemistry behind protein denaturation, explain why century eggs develop their distinctive colors and aroma, explore the origins of the name century egg, and separate long-standing myths from scientific reality. The remarkable chemistry inside the egg. The transformation of a fresh egg into a century egg is one of the most remarkable examples of food chemistry ever developed through traditional practice. Long before scientists understood the structure of proteins or the principles of molecular biology, Chinese food artisans had discovered that a carefully controlled alkaline environment could completely alter an egg's physical and sensory characteristics without causing it to spoil. A fresh egg consists primarily of water and proteins. The egg white, or albumin, is composed of about 90% water and 10% protein, while the yolk contains proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and naturally occurring pigments. In their natural state, these proteins are folded into highly organized three-dimensional structures. Their shape determines the texture and behavior of the egg. When exposed to a highly alkaline environment, these proteins begin to unfold. This process is known as protein denaturation. Denaturation does not destroy the proteins themselves. Rather, it alters their molecular architecture. As the tightly folded protein molecules unravel, they form new chemical bonds with neighboring molecules, producing an entirely different network. The process is similar in principle to what occurs when an egg is boiled. Heat causes proteins to coagulate into a solid white mass. In a century egg, however, heat plays no part. Instead, the same fundamental transformation occurs gradually under alkaline conditions over several months. Because the changes take place slowly, the resulting texture is completely different. Instead of becoming opaque and firm, the egg white develops into a smooth, elastic jelly that is translucent and amber to dark brown in color. The yolk undergoes even more dramatic changes. Its proteins and fats are progressively broken down into smaller compounds, creating a creamy, almost custard-like consistency. At the same time, sulfur-containing amino acids release volatile compounds that contribute to the century egg's distinctive aroma. These sulfur compounds are responsible for the characteristic smell that some describe as reminiscent of ammonia or strong cheese, although connoisseurs regard it as an integral part of the delicacy's rich umami profile. Another striking feature is the yolk's greenish-grey color. This results largely from chemical reactions between sulfur compounds and iron naturally present in the yolk, producing iron sulfides. Similar reactions occur when an ordinary egg is overcooked, creating the familiar green ring around the yolk, although the alkaline curing process intensifies the effect considerably. Some century eggs also display beautiful snowflake-like crystalline patterns on the surface of the egg white. These delicate formations, known poetically in Chinese as pine flowers, or pine branch patterns, arise naturally as mineral salts crystallize during the curing process. They are regarded as a hallmark of a well-made century egg and are valued for their aesthetic appeal as much as their indication of careful craftsmanship. Why is it called a century egg? Despite its evocative English name, a century egg is never preserved for a century. Indeed, most mature within 3 to 5 months, although some traditional methods require somewhat longer curing periods. The name century egg appears to have emerged during the late 19th and early 20th centuries, when Western visitors encountered this unfamiliar food and exaggerated both its appearance and presumed age. Similar names such as 100-year egg, 1,000-year egg, and millennium egg likewise reflect fascination rather than historical accuracy. The Chinese name pidan simply means preserved egg. It contains no suggestion that the egg has been aged for generations. The English names are therefore colorful misnomers that have endured largely because they capture the imagination. Separating myth from reality. Few foods have attracted as many myths as the century egg. Perhaps the most persistent misconception is that the eggs are rotten. In reality, they are preserved precisely because the highly alkaline environment inhibits the growth of most spoilage bacteria. A properly prepared century egg is chemically transformed, not decomposed. The strong aroma reflects the formation of sulfur-containing compounds rather than bacterial putrefaction. Another common belief is that century eggs are fermented in the same way as yogurt, kimchi, or soy sauce. Although microorganisms may play a minor role under certain traditional conditions, fermentation is not the principal mechanism responsible for the transformation. The dominant process is alkaline curing, driven by chemical reactions rather than microbial metabolism. Some people are also so surprised to learn that the black color of the egg white is entirely natural. No artificial coloring is required. The dark amber appearance develops as proteins and amino acids undergo complex reactions during prolonged exposure to alkali. The lead controversy. One of the more controversial chapters in the history of century egg production concerns the historical use of lead compounds. During parts of the 20th century, some commercial producers added small quantities of lead oxide to the curing mixture. Contrary to popular belief, the lead was not intended as a preservative. Instead, It helped regulate the speed of protein coagulation, reducing the likelihood of cracking and producing a smoother texture. Even so, the presence of lead raised obvious health concerns. Chronic exposure to lead is associated with neurological damage, kidney disease, developmental disorders in children, and numerous other adverse health effects. As scientific understanding advanced and food safety regulations became more stringent, lead-containing curing methods were progressively abandoned. Today, reputable manufacturers employ modern layered-free formulations based on food-grade alkaline compounds. Regulatory authorities in China, Taiwan, Malaysia, Singapore, and many other countries routinely monitor century eggs for heavy metal contamination, and commercially produced products are expected to comply with strict food safety standards. Consumers purchasing century eggs from established manufacturers can therefore enjoy them with confidence, provided they originate from reputable sources and meet applicable food safety regulations. In the final part of this feature, we shall compare the nutritional value of century eggs with that of fresh eggs, examine their health benefits and limitations, discuss food safety and storage, and consider why this remarkable delicacy remains one of the world's most ingenious examples of traditional food science. Nutritional value. How does it compare with a fresh egg? Despite its dramatically different appearance and flavor, the century egg remains nutritionally comparable to an ordinary egg. Most of the original nutrients survive the preservation process, although their concentrations and bioavailability may change slightly as the egg undergoes chemical transformation. A typical preserved duck egg provides approximately 80 kilocalories, around 8 grams of high-quality protein and about 5 grams of fat. Like fresh eggs, century eggs contain all 9 essential amino acids, making them a complete protein source. They also provide useful amounts of minerals such as calcium, phosphorus, iron, and potassium. Compared with a standard hard-boiled chicken egg, century eggs generally contain slightly more protein and somewhat higher concentrations of certain minerals. However, these advantages come with one important nutritional trade-off: sodium. Because salt forms an integral part of the curing mixture, century eggs contain substantially more sodium than fresh eggs. Excessive sodium intake has long been associated with elevated blood pressure and an increased risk of cardiovascular disease in susceptible individuals. Consequently, while century eggs can certainly form part of a balanced diet, they are best enjoyed as an occasional delicacy rather than an everyday staple, particularly by those with hypertension, chronic kidney disease, or other conditions requiring sodium restriction. It is also worth noting that the alkaline curing process has little effect on the cholesterol content of the egg. Like fresh eggs, century eggs should therefore be viewed within the context of the overall dietary pattern, rather than judged solely on the basis of a single nutrient. Culinary uses. A delicacy, best appreciated in balance. For first-time diners, the century egg's appearance may seem intimidating, yet its flavor is surprisingly subtle. Rather than tasting rotten, it possesses a rich, savory character dominated by umami, accompanied by creamy, earthy, and slightly mineral notes. Its unique flavor profile explains why it is seldom eaten entirely on its own. Instead, it is almost always paired with ingredients that complement or balance its richness. Perhaps the most classic accompaniment is finely sliced pickled ginger. The ginger's bright acidity, gentle sweetness, and refreshing pungency cut through the richness of the creamy yolk while providing a crisp contrast to the soft, gelatinous egg white. This pairing has become so firmly established that century eggs and pickled ginger are often served together as a simple appetizer before a Chinese banquet. Another iconic preparation is century egg congee, pidan, a comforting rice porridge in which diced century egg is gently folded into slowly simmered rice. The creamy porridge softens the egg's assertive flavor, while the preserved egg contributes depth and umami to what would otherwise be a relatively mild dish. Many versions also include shredded pork, spring onions, coriander, and white pepper. Century eggs are equally at home in cold appetizers. Sliced wedges are frequently served over chilled silken tofu with light soy sauce, sesame oil, chopped spring onions, and fresh coriander. The delicate tofu provides a neutral backdrop that allows the preserved egg's complex flavor to shine without overwhelming the palate. In southern Chinese cuisine, century eggs also appear in salads, rice dishes, and noodle preparations. They may be combined with cucumber, dressed with black vinegar, or incorporated into stir-fries where only brief heating preserves their distinctive texture. Modern chefs have even experimented with century eggs in canapés, sandwiches, and fusion cuisine, demonstrating the versatility of this ancient ingredient. As with strong blue cheeses, truffles, or fermented soy products, appreciation often develops gradually. Those encountering century eggs for the first time frequently find that their initial hesitation gives way to admiration once they experience how thoughtfully the eggs are paired with complementary ingredients. Selecting, storing, and serving consumers should purchase century eggs from reputable manufacturers or established retailers, ensuring that the shells are intact and free from cracks. Modern commercially produced century eggs are manufactured under hygienic conditions and are subject to food safety regulations designed to minimize contamination. Once purchased, unopened century eggs should be stored according to the manufacturer's instructions, usually in a cool place or under refrigeration. After peeling, they should be consumed promptly or refrigerated in an airtight container and eaten within a day or two. Because century eggs are already fully cured, they require no further cooking. They are usually served at room temperature, allowing their full flavor and creamy texture to develop before consumption. Ash, a triumph of traditional food science. The century egg stands as one of the world's most remarkable examples of traditional food preservation. Long before the emergence of chemistry as a scientific discipline, Chinese artisans discovered that carefully manipulating alkalinity could transform an ordinary egg into something entirely new. What appears to be culinary magic is, in reality, an elegant demonstration of applied chemistry. Proteins unfold and reform. Minerals participate in new chemical reactions. Pigments change color and flavors, evolve into an intricate balance of umami and aromatic sulfur compounds. Every stage reflects predictable biochemical processes that modern science has only relatively recently come to understand. The persistence of myths surrounding the century egg is perhaps unsurprising. Few foods undergo such dramatic visual transformation while remaining perfectly wholesome. Its dark, translucent white, greenish yolk and powerful aroma challenge conventional expectations of what an egg should be. Yet these very characteristics are evidence not of spoilage, but of successful preservation. Ultimately, the century egg reminds us that traditional cuisines are repositories of accumulated scientific knowledge. Across generations, artisans perfected methods through observation, experimentation, and experience, often achieving extraordinary results centuries before the underlying chemistry could be explained. For those willing to look beyond its unusual appearance, the century egg offers more than an intriguing culinary experience. It is a living example of humanity's ingenuity, a food in which history, culture, craftsmanship, and chemistry converge to create one of the world's most distinctive and enduring delicacies.
The author has placed this work in the public domain. It may be freely imported, exported, shared, distributed, edited, modified, or reformatted without explicit consent from the author. As a visually impaired person, the author asserts his rights under the Marrakesh Treaty to facilitate access to published works for persons who are blind, visually impaired, or otherwise print disabled. 2013, wipo.int. How to attend Aislan Adnan's Meet the Author luncheon at the Hungry Tapir, 135 Petaling Street, Kuala Lumpur. Short walking distance from the Pasar Seni MRT LRT station. From 12:30 hours, Saturday, 5th September 2026.
Step 1. Download all my 30+ books on nutrition for free from Z Library using this URL. However, there is a limit of 10 downloads a day from Z Library. The workaround is to download them, and 2,250 plus others, from my Optimal Health Community Telegram broadcast channel at EPUB electronic publishing. All my free ebooks are published in .EPUB electronic publishing format. If you are still living in the dark ages and only know .PDF, portable document format, and never heard of .EPUB, don't worry. You are about to have a mind-blowing experiential learning journey. If you use an Apple device, .EPUB files open in the Books app. If you are an Android user, use Universal Book Reader or a similar app. If you need further instructions on how to read .EPUB documents, just ask your favorite AI app to teach you. If you have never used an AI app before, start with Grok, Gemini, or ChatGPT. Then move on to DeepSeek, Claude, or Kling later.
Step 2. I have put all my books in the public domain, and you may share them freely. In fact, I strongly implore you to do so. Viralize them, make sure they reach every person who needs the knowledge contained in them. In Malaysia, the most recent data from the National Health and Morbidity Survey 2023 shows that 21.8% of adults are obese and 32.6% are overweight. This means the total combined rate is 54.4% of adults. Scary huge percentages of Malaysians are diabetic or suffer from other non-communicable diseases, NCDs. To be specific, in Malaysia, about 15.5% of adults have chronic kidney disease, CKD, up from 9.1% in 2011. Around 21.4% of adults aged 30 and above are at high risk of cardiovascular disease, CVD. Among older adults, about 8.5% have dementia, equating to roughly 260,000 people as of 2022. A nation is only as strong as its human capital. How strong can a nation be if more than half its population is fat, sick, and nearly dead? Of what good can you be to your family if you are fat, sick, and nearly dead? You owe it to yourself to be the best version of yourself that you can possibly be.
Step 3. Read the books. Follow whatever advice that makes sense to you. If something doesn't make sense to you, or causes cognitive dissonance, you can ask me clarifying questions on the 5th of September. Also, be prepared to report on the 5th of September what improvements in your health you have noticed. So far, one person has seen her total cholesterol level drop from always above 5 to 4.6. Another has resolved a chronic constipation issue. I have written 2 books on human stool classification and stool analysis. Another person who wakes up every morning with a white layer of mucus on her tongue for more than half her life now wakes up with a clear tongue. Step 4. Make the minimum donation by the required dates. The longer you prevaricate, the higher the minimum donation gets. Minimum donation per pax: 100 ringgit for donations received by June 30th, 150 ringgit for donations received by July 31st, 200 ringgit for donations received by August 31st, 500 ringgit for donations received by the 5th of September and for walk-ins. Places are limited. However, I do not wish to deprive anyone. If enough people register, we can take over the whole restaurant, so make your donations early to reserve your place. Purpose: your donations will go towards sponsoring persons with disability, PWD, to attend the event and also towards my various ongoing eye treatments. Sponsorship: if you run a business and wish to promote your business, you can sponsor door gifts, gift vouchers, or even cash.
A writer and researcher in nutrition science, Aslan has authored dozens of books on plant-based bioactives, antioxidants, and the chemistry of whole foods. In this session, he will lead a dynamic Ask Me Anything on nutrition session. All 30 of his nutrition books are in the public domain and are downloadable at the link below. Attendees must read these books in advance and come prepared with their questions. This is a singular chance to engage with one of today's leading independent nutrition thinkers. Don't miss it. A healthy, whole food, plant-based lunch with the menu curated by Aslan Adnan will be served. No need to write your name in the reference of the bank transfer, as it will automatically be displayed, but include your phone number in case we need to contact you for any last-minute changes. We
we will also celebrate Aslan's 68th birthday.
Some of you have been wondering why a YouTube channel devoted to green political philosophy and ideology would address health issues. The stark facts are these. Data from the National Health and Mobility Survey in Malaysia 2023 shows that 54.4% of adults are either overweight or obese, with 32.6% classified as overweight and 21.8% as obese. Abdominal obesity, per Roy, was also reported at 54.5%. Compared to 2011, the combined prevalence of overweight and obesity has increased from 44.5% to 54.4%. According to the same survey, 15.6% of adults in Malaysia have been diagnosed with diabetes, kencing manis. Additionally, about 21.4% of Malaysian adults aged 30 and above have a high 10-year calculated risk of developing cardiovascular disease, CVD, sakit jantung. In Malaysia, precise prevalence data for diagnosed CVD is somewhat limited. Data from 2010 to 2021 indicated that 16.6% of all registered deaths were due to CVD. A 2015 survey found that 14.1% of working-age adults had diabetes, 24.5% had hypertension, and 45.9% had high cholesterol. The World Heart Federation also noted in 2022 that around 11% of deaths in Malaysia are linked to CVD. In 2011, the prevalence of chronic kidney disease, CKD, sakit buah pinggang, was 9.07%. A nationwide study in Malaysia in 2018 estimated that 15.48% of adults, over 5 million people, have CKD. It really is alarming. These numbers are striking, especially when you consider how rapidly they have grown over just a decade. It is a massive public health challenge. In light of these statistics, the implications for nation building and capacity building are stark. What value does a nation have if more than half its population are fat, sick, and nearly dead?
Are you fat, sick, and nearly dead? Well, if you think you're overwhelmed, you don't know where to start with this book. And then as you progress, you can, go deeper, take a deep dive into the other books. And if you want to meet me to discuss what you've read in the books, you have a chance in September to do so. However, there are 5 places already been taken up, and there are limited seats, so the sooner you register, the sooner you'll reserve a place for yourself. Attendance is by donation, so details are in the video.
Important note on event registration fees. Normal registration. Donation received between the 1st and the 31st of August 2026. Minimum donation of 200 ringgits. Late registration. Donation received between 1st to 5th September 2026. Minimum donation of 500 ringgits. All proceeds after deducting third-party costs will go towards Aslan Adnan's various ongoing eye treatments to hopefully reverse or at least arrest his macular degeneration, cataracts, photophobia, mydriasis, dry eyes, and etc. This is mission critical as, if his vision fails, he'll no longer be able to produce, edit, or upload videos. Your voluntary contributions and donations are a critical success factor. As such, your generosity, empathy, compassion, and kindness are well and truly appreciated. We thank you in advance for your invaluable help and assistance in making this event a resounding success.
About the author. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a writer and independent researcher whose work focuses on nutrition science, food systems, and the biological foundations of human health. His writing examines how natural foods contain complex compounds that interact with human physiology in ways that may support long-term well-being. He has a particular interest in plant-based bioactive compounds such as polyphenols, carotenoids, flavonoids, and other phytochemicals found in fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, algae, and fungi, His research explores how these compounds function in plants and how they may influence human nutrition when consumed as part of a balanced diet. Aslan approaches nutrition from a multidisciplinary perspective, drawing on biochemistry, plant biology, and public health nutrition. His work aims to translate complex scientific concepts into clear explanations so that readers can better understand the nutritional value of everyday foods. He is the author of several books examining natural sources of antioxidants and other dietary compounds. Author of the Antioxidant series, Antioxidants in Herbs and Spices, Antioxidants in Algae, Microalgae, and Fungi, Antioxidants in Fruits and Vegetables, Antioxidants in Nuts and Seeds, Antioxidants in Berries. Author of the Nutrient series, Macronutrients, Volume 1, Carbohydrates, Macronutrients, Volume 2, Lipids, Macronutrients, Volume 3, Proteins, Micronutrients, Vitamins, Trace Elements, and Minerals, Anti-nutrients, the hidden blockers in your food, Phytonutrients, the quiet power of plants, Water, the forgotten fourth, a macronutrient you can't ignore, other books on health and nutrition, Tuber's Briefing Paper, 2nd edition, Aslan's 5-Powder Manifesto, Eating the Greek Way, How Cultural Habits Support Health Without Trying, Ideology on a Plate, How Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Turned U.S. Dietary Guidelines into a Scientific Farce, Maslow in 2026, A Practical Guide to Actual Needs, Not Scrollable Wishes. These works form part of an ongoing series exploring the chemistry, biological roles, and nutritional significance of bioactive compounds in plant foods. Through his writing, Aslan advocates a practical food-first approach to nutrition. His work emphasizes whole foods, dietary diversity, and balanced eating patterns, rather than reliance on isolated nutrients or supplements. He holds a Master of Arts in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster in London, and writes extensively on nutrition science, health, and food-based approaches to long-term well-being. Aslan Adnan, the quiet revolutionary of real food writing. Aslan Adnan, M.A., is a Malaysian polymath who spent decades turning food into philosophy. Raw, unfiltered, no hype. You won't find him pushing superfoods or miracle diets. He dissects what actually works. Whole plants, spices, microbes, and the quiet chemistry that keeps bodies humming. With over 30 books, self-published, shared freely on Z-Library, Facebook groups, Telegram channels, Aslan's output is prolific. Part manifesto, part manual. Early works like Spring Has Sprung, a psychological thriller, and travelogues on the road to the East Coast reveal his roots in journalism, advertising, and storytelling. But nutrition became his mission. Educated with a Master of Arts in International Business and Management from the University of Westminster, London, he taught at the School of Management, Royal Holloway, London, while pursuing doctoral research in business strategy and environmental management, specializing in the international timber trade. That academic backbone, rigor, systems thinking, sustainability, bleeds into his food writing. No fluff, just evidence. The core series, the Macronutrients Trilogy, Volume 1 on carbohydrates, glucose, fiber, metabolism, Volume 2 on lipids, fats, omega-3s, inflammation, Volume 3 on proteins, repair, enzymes, muscle. Then micronutrients, water, and anti-nutrients, the plant world's double-edged sword. Anti-nutrients are naturally occurring compounds in whole foods, phytates, oxalates, lectins, goitrogens, that can bind minerals, block enzymes, or mess with absorption. They evolved as plant defenses, but in us, they steal iron from spinach, calcium from kale, or spike gut irritation from raw beans. Variety wins. 30 plants a week, not monodiets. Raw's romantic, but cooked smarter. Add spice blends like Aslan's 5-Powder Manifesto, turmeric mixes for real anti-inflammation, and you've got a library that says, eat wide, not weird. Why release it all into the public domain? Because knowledge isn't currency. It's oxygen. Aslan watched corporations gatekeep health, paywalls on papers, patented supplements, proprietary blends that hide what works. He refuses. His books aren't for sale. They're for spread. No DRM, no ads, no ego. Just files anyone can download, print, share. He says it plain. If one person in a kampong swaps white rice for brown or steams kailan instead of boiling it, that's the win, not royalties. He's no gatekeeper. His Facebook, Aslan Green Party, Instagram, and YouTube drop bite-sized truths. Traffic light WFPB guides, eye health talks on looting, vegan journeys. He credits tradition, curries, forest mushrooms, seaweed from tides, and lives it. Unpeeled carrots, home ferments, No moralizing. 30-plus titles aren't about volume. They're depth. Carbs to phytonutrients, water to gut bugs. Aslan doesn't sell health. He hands you the tools. Read him and your plate changes. Not because you're broken, because you're built for better.
Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to show your support. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and to subscribe to our channel to show your support.